Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So today we are going to have a look at FerenOS again. I've looked at this before, but this is the first time I've seen it on DistroWatch. It may have showed up earlier than this before. I haven't really been looking for it, but I want to shoot over to DistroWatch, see what's going on in the distro world, and it turns out that yesterday the FerenOS team did release the 2017.0. And so I have some comments on it, some good comments, some bad comments. So we're just going to talk about the pros and cons of FerenOS. So these guys, I've chatted with them a few times on some live streams. They're always on with Sudo Reboot and his live streams. With them, I really support what they're doing, of course, because it's just they've produced a niche system. It's not a distro that I personally would use, just because, and I'll explain why particularly, but it's just because I have a few different tastes and a few different things. But I do want to highlight it because if you are looking for a user-friendly Linux distro to get started on, this one might be the one, because they've done some excellent theming that really puts it up there in competition with Zorin. Except the difference is, Zorin, you gotta pay for the extra themes to theme the thing like a Mac or like a Windows, and Feren, you do not. So if you really like the look and the feel of a Windows computer, or the look and feel of a Mac computer, FerenOS is probably your distro, because you can do all of the different, all the different ways of styling it. You can style it like Ubuntu, you can style it like a Mac, you can style it like Windows. They'll have a lot of the themes, a lot of wallpaper choices. Now, the downside is that it is also a very large distro to download. And the Linux cat heard me talking. He's like, "Yep, I know you're talking to the crowd, so I want to come over and say hi. Hello, peoples. Use FerenOS, it rocks." There's an endorsement from the kitty. The kitty says to use Feren. Yeah? You think so? You like Feren? I bet you like the birdie on FerenOS, huh? Yeah? You like the birdie? Alright. Alright. So, we're going to have a look at that. First, what we're going to do is we're just going to have a quick look at their website. And if I can find my website build. There it is. Alright, so here's my website build. Alright, so you can see here that yesterday is where this was on DistroWatch. And the biggest downside, I think one of the bigger ones, is the size. This is a 3.4 gigabyte download. And it is only available on SourceForge. So it is, the good news about it is that it's actually downloads very quickly. Mine downloaded in only about 20 minutes. Whereas there's some SourceForge distros I've attempted to download that they just haven't downloaded well. And so I like the fact that it's a fast download. I would still kind of like to see some torrents or something else, so that we could, what we could do there is we could just have more alternative ways of downloading it. Particularly if it gets really popular, the SourceForge links could slow down over time. So looking at their website over here, they did make a lot of good improvements to the overall default theme. It used to be a little too bright, and they've taken a lot of some community discussion into play and made some adjustments to that. So that's really good, and that's another thing that's really great about the distro, is that they do listen to their community and they do respond. For example, now you can get the checksums. They weren't there in the original previews, of course. That was probably more alpha mode. But you can see here that it has been downloaded more than 11,000 times. It's a good distro. It really is a good distro. I got those crazy spirits back. This door over here just starts vibrating. It's like a closet, you know. Crazy. All right. Don't be forced to switch to Windows 10. All right. So FerenOS and many other Linux distributions do not block updates just because you're running the next gen Intel Kaby Lake or Ryzen chips. Give FerenOS a try because we don't spy on you, which is good. That's a reason you'd want to use it. In fact, they're talking about search for the Windows 10 basic level data collection. This is information that Microsoft just released, and it's very scary. If you're using Windows and you don't have to be, maybe you should think about that a little bit. Oh, really? Well, I've got to turn on my other lamp for better lighting. And I gotta still have a kitty down here, so I don't want to disturb the kitty too much. Yeah? What do you think, kitty? Huh? Yeah? All right. So, let's see here. So this is another reason why you might want to use this. So here's just their information. Beautiful desktop, and here they're walking through these images. We'll rotate around, so this is the Ubuntu-like view. This is, I think this one's the default, I'm pretty sure. But then they'll have a Mac view, they'll have a Windows view. So this is like the Windows preview, so it'll look like the Windows view there. I'm not sure if they're going to show us the Mac one right here. I'll show it to you in the actual distro there. Okay, there's like the XP view. So, you know, no matter which way you liked the old style, you could do that. So there's a lot of applications installed. This is either a positive or a negative, depending on where you're going as far as the applications are concerned. So you can come over here. You can grab the download here. I'm not sure what the difference is here. Let's see what this says. Windows download. I have no idea what the difference between this is. In fact, it looks like the links are probably all the same. So I'm not sure why there's a different page for each one of these or not. It might just be to make it easier for a person coming to the site saying, well, I'm a Mac user, so I'll click the Mac download. It looks like it's all the same file to me. In fact, the checksum, I can tell you, is the same, so it is the same file. I'm not sure exactly why, except here they might be giving you better insight as to how to make the link, but I'm not sure. To me, as a web guy, this is a little interesting to me, but anyway, it's there. You can see the blog, the comments over there. So that's what that looks like. We're going to come over here and kind of go full screen into that. And let me find my picture there. All right. So come over here. So now we are actually in this. And let me come back to my scene. Just going to move this around so you can see that there's a clock up there by default. I might have changed the theme around just a little bit in playing with the settings, but I didn't change anything else. So this is what we get. Guest editions work beautifully fine. This is, of course, based on Linux Mint, so it automatically has a +1 in my book. I think one of the major criticisms is how much software there is. There's so much software that, you know, A, it causes the system to be extremely large to download, but B, it's like, it feels like there's way too much, like we're going to give you too many options. And some of the options just don't make as much sense to me, but we'll see what happens there. So first we'll walk through the applications, then we'll walk through the themes. So under your accessories here, so this is kind of how this is set up, and you can scroll the mouse wheel to go between the different applications. There's a different view here. Ooh, I'm not sure I like that at all. I like how their default was. There's your accessories. Here they have Play on Linux and Steam. I am not an advocate of having Play on Linux or Wine installed on a Linux distro. I think a lot of people are putting that on, and I've talked about this before. A lot of people are putting those on the distros to say, hey, we can run Windows applications. And, you know, you really can't run modern Windows applications on Wine. And having Wine installed by default on a Linux distro makes it intrinsically more vulnerable to any Windows-based applications. And so we have to be cautious about that. Steam, hey, cool, no problems there. But I am cautious and leery about Wine being pre-installed on a distro, because that's really something that you should install if you need it. However, I do completely understand that that somebody just moving from Windows over to test out Linux may not know how to install Wine. So that's good. Maybe I would like to see an option to install it, because there's a lot of options like that on this. When you first turn it on, there's an option of would you like to download the icon packs for Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows 10. There is on this a browser thing. Would you like to install or uninstall certain browsers? I'd like to see them implement that across other software platforms, and maybe even this. Like, go through a setup configuration screen, kind of like, I'm going to totally get this wrong, but either it's one of the Arch installers, either Manjaro or Antergos. I think it's Antergos. Allows you to go through and just select the screens, the types of things that you would like. I think that would streamline the approach and just allow you to download it, kind of like Debian, where you just grab the one net install file, and then you pick your desktop environment at the install, and then it'll download the things at the end. Now, the downside of that, of course, is that this comes with everything already pre-shipped. So if you were to get a copy of this on a DVD or something, then you have everything out of the box, versus the other method. It relies on an internet connection to get your desktop environment. And so that's a factor to take into consideration. So this is a bigger download, but it is a little bit more inclusive. All right, so for graphics, they went with Krita instead of GIMP. No problems there. Just an FYI, I've been splitting my time, half GIMP and half Krita. So eventually I'll do a little bit more advanced thing. But again, it seemed a little random to me that some of the other software packages, there's two different applications that all do the same thing. Why don't they include both? I don't know. It just kind of feels like the application choices are a little mishmash. Regardless, this they do have Krita here, which is a very fabulous image editor. Simple Scan, Slideshow. I don't know what XN Retro is. Okay, so for internet, this here, Gear Email, I hate this program. This program should crash and burn. The problem is, I do not believe I have yet seen a way that you can set this up with a POP account. And I am not a huge fan of using IMAP for everything. And so this is, if you watch my tinfoil hat time from the other day about dumbed down by user friendliness, that's where Geary is at. This is one of these applications where user friendliness is starting to sneak its way into Linux. And I think it's a horrible thing. Not that we have to have super complicated email applications like Kmail is a little bit harder to get set up with multiple email addresses, but I do not like Geary at all because it just feels so limited in what you can do. To me, it feels very much like the Windows Mail application. So again, that's the only email program they give us. We get HexChat, Steam, Transmission, Vivaldi for the web browser, and then here you have the option here to install or uninstall various browsers. Interesting choices here. Where's Chromium? As Linux users, we should be more focused on the open source things. We should be doing more education about, instead of using Google Chrome for everything, why don't we look at Chromium, if you like how Chrome works. The only reason that, in my opinion, a person should be using Chrome is if there is something in the proprietary codecs that you need to use. And because Google Chrome, despite it being the most popular browser, is a browser embedded with Google's proprietary code. We don't know what it's doing. Again, though, those codes, if you're on Linux and you want to do something like Amazon Prime, I think Google Chrome is where you need to go. And so I'm not opposed to it being here. I'm just saying we should be focusing a lot, if we're moving people from Windows or from Mac onto Linux, let's introduce them to the concept of what free software is and what open source software is, and moving people away from the big proprietary corporations and onto the open source platforms. So where is Chromium? So we have Vivaldi, we have Web, we have Firefox, and we have Chrome. and I can install or uninstall these as I see fit. So that is a neat application. I just really wish that you had the other option there for Chromium. All right, so this one here under Office, we have a calendar. We have LibreOffice, but it looks like we only have LibreOffice Writer. I can't open anything else, meaning it's probably not installed, but I can open a Writer document. So we have LibreOffice Writer, and then we have the whole suite of WPS, and I don't like this because WPS is free financially, but it requires a binding EULA, which talks about you cannot reverse engineer this, which talks about being bound to the terms and conditions, and talks about you cannot attempt to figure out what our code is. It is closed software. And frankly, I do not find this, and in fact, I find it to be worse than LibreOffice from a functionality. Of course, the reason you include it, of course, here's the EULA. Let's just go ahead and have a look at the EULA. These are the types of things that you don't get in a lot of Linux applications. And this is why, to me, this makes kind of a weird choice to include. We're just going to go ahead and make this thing as big as I can possibly make it. Just so you can see that why we shouldn't be using WPS unless there's a specific reason to. All right, so looking at this guy over, and of course you should always read these things. So it's not nearly as long as Microsoft Office for sure, but the product is protected by copyright laws. Okay, it's licensed and installed, Kingsoft. Grants you a non-exclusive license to the product in the territorial scope of the world. You are entitled to install, use, display, make backups, whatever. You shall not sell the product. Let's see. Remember exactly where it was. You shall abide by the following obligations. You do not use, copy, revise, or assign the product as a whole or part beyond the scope authorized by the EULA. Only run the product on one computer-based Linux system. What? I can't have it on both my Linux? What does this mean? Maybe it means don't deploy it across the network to use it on like a collab or something, I guess. But only run the product on one computer based on Linux system. I'm guessing that means a local computer rather than a network install, but it's still weird. Don't run the product as multi-users, circumstance, or network system under the following conditions being satisfied. Each node terminal has been legally granted license, and each node and terminal which has been legally granted license based on the Linux system. Okay, do not reverse engineer, decompile, or disassemble the product or attempt to gain access to the source code for the products by any means. And right there, it's out. May as well use Office. Unless this gives me some fundamental thing. But I should have the right to see and audit the source code. I do not know what this program is doing. They have forbidden it, they have hidden it, and they have prevented you from doing it. As far as I can tell from the EULA. Now, I've never gone on and tried to find source code. Maybe it exists out there. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I read EULAs, as we should all read EULAs, and this is why I do not like this application being pre-installed on any Linux distro. But I'll show you why they did it. You may make a one-time permanent assignment of the product accompanied by the EULA to a third party. Huh? Your license is terminated upon the... Like, what am I even agreeing to? That's just kind of weird. Let's see. Replacing, reworking, and upgrading. They reserve the right to replace, revise, and upgrade the product, as well as the right to charge fees for such replaced, revised, and or upgraded editions of the product by prior announcement to you, including without limitations. Client pop the product official website and the email address you provided at any time. If you do not accept the replaced, revised, and or upgraded edition of the product, please contact their service center within 10 working days after receipt of the replaced, revised, and or upgraded edition of the product so that you can continue to use the prior edition. If you do not contact their customer service center within the pre-mentioned 10 working days, it shall be deemed that you wholly and completely accept the replaced and revised, upgraded edition of the product. Now, does this mean that, like, Windows 10, they're just going to force it on you? If the Kingsoft provides a replaced, revised, and or upgraded edition of the product. You shall not use the replaced and or revised edition of the product until you fully agree with the replaced, revised, and or upgraded edition of the product with the new version of the EULA attached. Ooh. Sounds to me like they're going to be pushing stuff on you here. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and, not that I really agree with that, but we're going to go ahead and accept it. Oh boy, now we have problems. Okay, whatever. Like, what is... Where's my Tom on fire? Ah! There are ads inside of the stupid thing. This is so duplicating Windows 10. It's driving me mad. There's an open source platform on here, and they choose this crap. I'm guessing because it has a ribbon. Like Office 2016. Okay, I'm done being on fire now. Look at this. Here is an ad. An ad by Jaiwago being displayed on the software package on my operating system. This is like Windows 10. People wonder why I don't like WPS. WPS is great. It's free software. No, it's not. No. But it has a ribbon like the modern day Office. Uninstall this and install the full suite of LibreOffice. You will be much happier. But again, they're trying to capture this market that is, they're trying to capture a market that is, used to this type of stuff, which I can sort of understand, but at the same token, it's like, why are we trying to switch people into, kind of trick them into thinking, oh, just use this and all your Windows programs are still going to work and all of your things are going to look the same and everything's going to have the same functionality. And the reality is that's not the case. Linux is a different operating system. It is an operating system that can still do the things that you need to do on Linux, but it is still a different operating system. We need to stop trying to treat it like the same. What we should be doing, though, is educating people about the things that you can do on Linux, and that's why I do these videos. But here we have the whole WPS fully agreed to their crazy EULA, and then we have just Libre Writer, but nothing else of Writer. That just makes no sense to me. There's friends. There's some programming, sound and video. We still have Banshee, which interesting because if I remember correctly, I believe that Linux Mint 18 took Banshee out. In fact, let me just do. Since I haven't done anything here, I can probably just tell you this because this is 18.1. Okay, yeah. So Linux Mint in 18, it was either 18 or 18.1, they replaced Banshee with Rhythmbox. Now, I don't like Rhythmbox. I really like Banshee, but they did it because Banshee has, I believe, not had as much development or things, and there are a few small problems with Banshee. I still love Banshee, so I generally install it. I haven't done it on this because I don't use this computer for anything other than my video production, so it's not like I'm trying to do anything there. But they went with Banshee, and then we have VLC, and then we have the media player and Gradio, I believe is Radio One. We do have Cheese and we do have Berserio, but again, there's just a lot of different media players on here. Here's the Wine. I've already talked about that. And then, of course, you have your preferences and things. So, a lot of extra software. Domain blocker, that's pretty nice. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so pretty much this would allow you to just do a domain block, just like you might see inside of just by editing the host file. Of course, I can't seem to do anything with it. Okay, there you go. Okay, just got to add. It was just giving me the swirly circle of doom there for a minute. All right, let's see. Power stats. There's your software. There's your welcome screen. Let's have a look at the system monitor here. See what the system resources look like. Come on. So it's using 1.4 gigabytes. So as far as Linux distros go, this is very heavy on system resources. Probably about 3 times heavier than your typical Linux distro. So that's, don't try and install this on a little computer. Save this for a bigger computer. Next, let's have a look at the theming. The theming is where they do a lot of things right, at least from the perspective of the things that you can do. What I might like to see is not downloading all of these things to the computer and doing something more like a KDE does, where, here's where you can change your themes. We're just going to put 2 or 3 on here, but a very nice button to the online repository to browse themes and install the ones that you want. That way you can still have all the functionality, but you don't have to install everything, because they put a ton in here. 4 themes for their own. Windows 10, 8, 7, Beta, or Vista, XP, Windows 2000 and below. So here's a Windows 3.1 theme, Windows 2000 theme. Let's just go ahead and try this out. Just need to double click on the themes to get those. And is that working? Okay, yep, there it goes. So the taskbar does not exactly resemble. Maybe it's still trying to build it. I don't know. But the Windows, oh, there we go. It's just a little slow and unresponsive, actually. Okay. No, I don't want your keyring. Go away. All right. So, I have no idea where my menu just went. My menu just vanished. Go away, you stupid kid. Go away. But to uninstall that stupid thing. Okay, so apparently the Windows 3.1 theme does not have a start menu. I know Windows 3.1 had a start menu. I thought it did. Pretty sure it does. All right, so here's like the Windows 10 version. Actually, this used to show up more like a Windows 10 icon pack there. Maybe it's just because we're recording video at the same time. But, here's your various Windows 8. Again, all of these things are taking a ton of system resources. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There's 16 different Windows 8 themes, 2 Windows 10 themes, a ton of Windows 7 themes. And so it's cool that they have this option and availability, but the downside is this just takes a lot. This is why it's such a huge download. It'd be way better to establish the online repositories, have a simple button to say you can download that theme right here. Now, with your Apple themes, here you have your older and you have your newer Mac themes. So this is, again, where this distro will stand out, is this does a really good job of theming things out right. Of course, I'm still not getting my, I guess there's a launcher. We're lagging out again. Okay. So, I mean, just an amazing job of theming these. And this is where this can be a very good competitor with Zorin, because with Zorin, you can do all these themes, but you have to pay them money to get all of the other themes. This, it comes pre-installed, which is nice. If you want to do like in Ubuntu, we have a Radiance and an Ambience theme for Ubuntu. And then there's, so just give it a minute here and it'll pull up its theme here. So you'll see it's doing a whole lot. It really is making it resemble it. Of course, it'll just pull down your menus much the same. Here's some popular themes, and here's some Linux Mint themes. And then if you're into Chrome OS, here's some Chrome OS themes. So this is where it does stand out, it does. I hope I don't get lost over here because I've not actually used Chrome OS very much. and I'm not sure if it's done doing its thing yet or not. So this is really where Feren is going to stand out. It does take a little while to change these themes around, so just keep that in mind as you're going through here. That you expect some lag as you're messing around with the themes. So that's just kind of the walkthrough. You know, a couple, in my opinion, a few silly software choices. I love the theming abilities and the capabilities. I love what they're trying to do. I don't like that they're including wine. I don't like that they're installing so many different themes all in one location. Even the desktop background, there's a good 35 or so backgrounds in here to choose from. So, all these take quite a bit as well. And so again, it'd just be better if you just grab the throw a few in here, a few different styles and varieties, and then let your individual users go back and decide the types of ones that they'd like to download. So let's see what that looks like there. All right, so it is some very nice themes. So overall, pros. It is a complete system. You can install this and be ready to go. It is a system that will appeal to you if you are, no matter where you're coming from. If you're as a student coming from Chromebooks, if you're coming from the Mac world, coming from the PC world, it will have the ability to set this up in a familiar style. I almost see this might be a little better as a person who sells computers or who helps other people set things up, to get it themed up the way the person might want it themed up, and then uninstall a lot of the other stuff to free up some space. And then that way each user can decide how they want to have their own setup. And some of the software packages I would change around, as we talked about. But overall, it's a very, very nice system. You do have to keep note it is a 3.3, I think 3.4 gigabyte download, and so keep that in mind as you are if this is something that you want. And then, of course, the positives of such a large download is that it has everything. You don't need to download anything else from the net, so that's a good thing. Of course, the downside is if you're limited on your internet connection, it might seem a little bit too bloated for you. So you have that going. They did a great job of fixing some of the colors. It's a whole lot more attractive of a default distro than it was in the first time I looked at it. So a lot of great things going for this. These guys have done a good job with this distro. Lots of pros, lots of cons as well, but that's quite okay. We need some pros, we need some cons, and this is a great system, of course, based on Linux Mint 18.1. So I believe Ubuntu. I think it's based on Ubuntu 16.04, which is kind of funny though, because when you first turn it on, it says Ubuntu 18.1. When you first turn it on, and that seems a little goofy to me. That's because they're grabbing the Ubuntu part, and it looks like the Ubuntu loading screen, but then they put the Linux Mint 18.1 type thing, so it ends up saying Ubuntu 18.1 on the load screen. With that, lots of neat tools. We have a backup tool on here, the deconfig editor. We have the domain blocker, logins. Ooh, send feedback. Let's see what the send feedback does. Really? I have to do a key ring for sending feedback, huh? Okay. All right. So that just kind of loads up their feedback center. Oh, that web browser's got to go. It's gonna make me mad. You know what? That's something I didn't have a look at. Let's look at the software sources. Let's see where they're pulling software sources from. Okay, Linux, Mint, Ubuntu. Nothing too surprising there. All right. So Elementary, they're pulling some software sources from Elementary OS. There's a lot of different software repositories on here. That would kind of concern me with just the number of things they have. Let's see. Fingerprint GUI, what's that? No idea what Fingerprint GUI is. Lots of icons. Lots of theme sources. Huh, I didn't see OBS in here. So it looks like they're linking to the OBS repositories, but they do not have it installed. So what that's going to allow you to do is just be able to install it really quickly from the either Symantec or from there. Let's just have a quick look at that. I keep on saying Symantec. I don't know. I've been in the Windows world too long with Norton. Not that I've ever endorsed it, but oh no. Synaptic. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so it is the latest OBS. See right there, it's 18.01, which is the latest. And that is the one I am running right now as well. Good. So they have definitely taken the pain out of that. Okay. Additional repositories. So Google, Vivaldi, OpenSUSE. Lots of package signing keys. Okay. All right. See if there's anything else I want to poke around in. See what the firewall status is. So default firewall is looks like it is disabled, but it is here and ready to go. All right. Trying to think if there's anything else that I might need to do. I'll have to do some of these distro reviews live so you guys can tell me some of the things that we do. Anyway, pros and cons of Feren. Big pros is the beautiful customization options. The fact that you can theme it like Windows, like Mac, like several different Linux distros. You can theme it however you want to theme it pretty easily out of the box, which is great. Cons, some of their software choices to me seem a little odd and weird, and it is quite a large download, which I guess could be a pro or a con. It does feel like a complete system. Some places seem a little overbloated, but some places, you know, you don't feel like you're lacking anything, so that's good. So those are kind of pros and cons. Again, this is the second video I did for Feren, and you know, they had a lot of good comments and feedback on the first one. So hopefully they'll be back with some other comments and feedback here. So definitely check the distro out though. It is very cool, very nice implementation. I guess this is what a Chromebook might look like, huh? Fun. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. This has been a pro and con distro review of FerenOS 2017.0, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.